once upon a time, there lived a seamstress, a woman who earned a modest but comfortable living in her town, mending and sewing and making clothes for the people of the town. She also had taught herself tailoring skills, and she became very good at making the most wonderful overcoats for people. You know, long sleeves all the way down to the ground. This was back in the time when women wore long skirts. And so she made these overcoats, but even though she'd made many overcoats for many other people, she'd never been able to make one for herself, even though she really wanted one. No, she kept wearing her shawls because, well, she just didn't have quite enough money to go and buy that much fine, thick material just to make something for herself. Well, as one can sometimes do, she saved and saved, bit by bit, till finally, at long last, she had enough, and she went to the market. She knew just what she was looking for, and she found the most beautiful, soft, thick, gray wool. And she bought just enough, and she took it home, and she spread it out on her cutting table, and with her shears, she very carefully cut out the pieces of the pattern so as not to waste any of that material. And then she sewed the pieces together with her good tailoring skill. And the day came to try on the finished coat. No, it fit perfectly. And it was so warm and soft and just what she had wanted. She wore that overcoat every chance she got. When it was the least little bit cold outside, she wore and wore that overcoat until it was all worn out. At least she thought it was all worn out, but really, it was really just the bottom that was kind of ragged and mud-stained. So she cut that off, hemmed it up shorter, and had a perfectly good jacket to wear. She could wear it even more often, didn't have to be quite so cold outside, so she wore and wore that wool jacket until the jacket was all worn out. At least she thought it was. But she realized when she took it off, it was really just the sleeves, you know, where the edges, the cuffs and the elbows were all worn out. But she cut the sleeves off with their ragged parts and refitted it a little bit and made for herself a fine woolen vest. Yes. She wore that vest outdoors and in until the vest was all worn out. At least she. She took it off, she cut away the worn parts. She had several fine pieces of that wonderful wool still left. She tried to think, what smaller thing can I make from this fine wool? And she thought, and she decided to make a hat. That's exactly what she did. She sewed and refitted the pieces together and tried it on. Oh, it was a nice hat, stylish. She wore it every chance she got, wore it about town. People made comments about it. She wore and wore that hat until the hat was worn out. At least she, because she took the hat off and, cut away the worn and the soiled parts of the brim. And, well, she still had several small pieces of that fine gray wool left. What smaller thing could I make? And she decided to make a glove. That's what she had very dainty hands. So she was able to make gloves just right. They were warm, they were fine. And then she wore them even till the fingers were out. And then she cut those off, had fingerless gloves. She could work, but finally even those were all worn out. At least she thought they were. Oh, they weren't very big, but she had some strips of that material left. She tried to think, what smaller thing could she make? She decided to make
earmuffs.
Earmuffs. She had petite ears as well. She made them, and she found a piece of yarn that she could, and they worked just fine. On those cold nights when the fireplace didn't quite warm her ears, the earmuffs did. She wore those earmuffs until they were all worn out. Cut the parts away. Oh my. not much left at all, but she was thinking, certainly there must be something else. What smaller thing could I make?
Earplugs.
Earplugs. The next door house was she actually shared a wall with the next door house, and the man who lived in that house snored terribly. So she made those earplugs. Oh, soft. Have you ever used the wool earplugs? Were wonderful, and she slept well all night long until finally, and at last, even those little earplugs were all gone. Well, she cut away any soiled parts, and actually, what she had left were a few threads, and she realized that she had enough of that material left to make this story. And I want to thank you from my heart for helping to tell and make this story. Thank you very much.